Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of FPL Affairs, the podcast that discusses our 9-month-long love affair with FPL, including the ins and outs that keeps us awake at night. In this first of our Gameweek 16 videos, we review our team's performances from Gameweek 15, take away the key talking points from that week, and focus on defensive dilemmas, as lots of teams appear to have defensive problems forthcoming. Anyway, let's get cracking.
And there's Mo Salah. There goes Haaland. He's on his way again. He's hungry. He's scored. Ice cold precision from Palmer. Oh, Saka! That is a diamond of a goal.
Hello, welcome to episode 16. I am Matt, aka the Veteran, and as always accompanied by my co-host Jack, aka the Master. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. You?
Not too bad. Apologies, people, if I sound a bit husky. I've done a lot of talking at work today. So, yeah,
I think it sounds nice.
I'll try waffle less and leave that more to Jack.
Last thing I need is encouraging, but carry on.
Right, so I mentioned in the intro what we're going to cover this week. So should we start off with our Game Week 15 review?
Look at us, a pair of green arrows.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Sorry,
Spoiler alert
I get too
already.
excited at this point. We've had so many reds.
Let's bring up the Masters team.
Woo.
Talk us through it.
Okay, so Flecken with an assist. Let's just start that off. So he got 3 points, conceded a ton of goals, but got a long ball assist to Collins, which I'm sure you'll talk about in the next slide. And then Wout Fass came off my bench for the injured Gabriel with 1, because he's now stopped starting, so that's fun. Lewis Hall with 1, who I'm pretty sure is yet to return for me since bringing him in after listening to the Veterans Newcastle hype. 8 Nuri with 4, because he finally played as a left wing back in a back 5, as opposed to, I think, looking at the teams he's played as a left-sided centre back and in a 3, and a left back in a 4 every game since the last time he returned. So that was nice to see. Saka got me 2. I'm starting to get a little bit annoyed with Saka. I brought him in 4 or 5 game weeks ago, and he's I think he's not returned very much in that time, but he's still going nowhere. Gordon was my move this week for Smith Rowe, which went down like a lead balloon, because he was on the bench, which was always fun. A bit like last week, bringing in Nick Jackson for him not to start. This week, brought in Gordon to not to start, so that's fun. Captain Cole Palmer with 36, who essentially put my entire team on his back and carried me through. Happy I put the captaincy on him. There was a urge to put it on Nick Jackson, which I'm glad I sort of didn't do, because he absolutely flopped with 2 points. Rogers got 2 against Southampton, which is odd because there were so many goals in the Premier League this weekend, and the one which you would have expected the most with Villa against Southampton, or certainly quite a few, was the lowest scoring game at 1-0. But hey ho, at least Southampton didn't get a good drumming.
Yeah.
Chris Wood, who again I think is pretty much wholeheartedly responsible for my rank at this stage after bringing him on wildcard 6. It just seems, I know he's had a couple of blanks recently, but he got me an 8. Just love Chris Wood this season. Honestly, he's been my absolute king. Nick Jackson did start, so that was a bonus in comparison with the game week before, but he didn't do anything, so that's fun. So he got 2. And Strand Larson, who, although blanked, still outscored Cunha. So that's ideal with 2, which we love, because I'm not sure Matt's a Cunha owner either. I think we've both got our fingers crossed for Cunha blanks every week because he's quite highly owned. And the yellow card was an added bonus this week. So Strand
Yeah.
Larsen got twice as many points as Cunha with a strong 2. So that's my team. And that gave me a grand total of 62 after auto subs. Obviously, I had Salah on the bench, Mikalenko on the bench because they didn't play, and Gabriel went onto my bench. So a full blank bench. That gave me a lovely green arrow from 228k to 186k, which I was pleased with. So it's nice to see me go up into the next bracket, which is within 200k. So that's fun. My safety score was 58, so I outdid that by 4, which just goes to show how tight it is within those 50. What's that? 50,000, 40,000 places that I moved up. So that's tight.
Yeah.
And yeah, puts me on a total of 949. So let's push for the top 100k. On to you, big guy.
Do you know how far off the top 100k you are?
I looked at it. I know I'm 30 points off top 50k. I'll tell you what. Nah, I think it's like, I think I remember thinking it was like 15 points off the top 100k, and then like 33 off of the top 50k when I looked. But again, you get a couple of captaincy decisions right, or a couple of differentials, bang, and you can make those up quite quickly. I mean, Gordon's quite a low-owned player with some nice fixtures coming up over the next 2. So if he were to sort of go brace, and I weren't to lose out elsewhere, I think that would be quite nice. I think he might be able to get me there. But yeah, he's got to start first, so that'd be nice.
That was only because of the midweek game.
But he's such a workhorse, though, isn't he? That didn't happen at all last year. And when Isak and Callum Wilson are both out, he plays in the number 9. He's very rarely rested, apart from when I bring him in. So yeah, that's ideal. But how do you get on?
Mind you, final thought on that in regards to Gordon resting. A lot of the points last season when Howard wanted to rest him, Harvey Barnes was injured.
Yeah, and Murphy didn't play much, did he? Even though he was fit and available, but I think you started to use him a lot more towards the end of last season.
It was Murphy and Almiron were fluctuating on the right, and Gordon had no main competition for the left wide position. And then when Wilson and Isak were injured, he was the main person in the centre. Anyway, we're going off the point and past it, but I think Gordon's benching won't.
No, I don't think it'll be happening. No, I just think it was bad timing. But I've got him now. I'm happy with him. So yeah, we'll see.
And your charming giant green arrow.
There she blows.
Right, yeah. So my team.
Go on, big man.
Reading through it. Raya with a massive 2-pointer in goal.
As if Fleck conceded like 4 goals and that was scored Raya. That's nuts.
Aït-Nouri's delightful assist.
Yeah.
Annoying that he conceded twice, so dropped down to 4 points rather than 5. Kirkes, who was my free transfer for Collins, so that was a bit painful. 2 points for Kirkes, 1 point for Hall. Hall was my auto sub in for Gabriel. In midfield, Saka, 2 points. Captaincy on Palmer with 36. Semenyo was my auto sub in for Salah. 2 points for Rodgers. Goal for Wissa. And 1 bonus, so 7 points from him. 2 from Jackson and 8 points from Isak. So it was a bit of an emotional roller coaster of a week because the weekend started off really nicely with the early goals on Saturday for Wissa and Isak. It was just like, yes, we're going well here. And then nothing happened until Palmer.
I had like nobody play on Saturday, I think, as well. I think I was on a red Saturday night, and I was like, oh no, I need something big to happen tomorrow. And luckily, obviously, Cole Palmer came through. I think also if you looked at the auto subs this week, and obviously a lot were on Salah captaincy versus a vice captain, so waiting for the end of the week. Like my green arrow was 148k, and then once the auto subs kicked in, obviously Gabriel got benched. Obviously Salah didn't play, and Trent and Van Dijk, so there's a lot of auto subs. But I think but there wasn't a lot of clean sheets, and not a lot of people would have benched players. In fact, I'm pretty sure there was only one clean sheet, and it was Aston Villa, but there might have been another one in there somewhere, but I'm pretty sure there's only one anyway. So a lot of defenders would have been getting ones and twos. So I'm not sure, and like Rodgers got two, and Smith Rowe, and so there were budget options that got low points. So a lot of it was on captaincy, and I think that what that said to me was, for example, if you did captain, Palmer over Salah this week, and Salah played and blanked, I know it's obviously unlikely, but just how much people always talk about differential captains, and there are times to go for it and times not to go for it. But if you did go for it and get it right, and we say, for example, I captain Salah and you captain Palmer, then and Salah gets I don't know, 2, and blanks gets 4, and you've got Palmer on 36. Well, there's a 32-point swing there. So you can, do you know what I mean? Like, you can genuinely get differential captains right sometimes. But I'm not suggesting that this week was the week to do it. But if you were to go against it, there is a chance for a big green if you do get it right, of about 50,000 places.
Yeah. So where that took me, that gave me a grand total of 68 points, with 3 coming off the bench. So that was Hall and Semenyo. My safety score was 54, so nice 14 points over that.
Lovely.
Grand total of 880, moving me up from 1.9 million to 1.4. So a 24% rise, and a game week rank of just inside the top 1.5 million, just under that.
We're gaining now, aren't we? You said the other day you were 4.5 million on an episode not too long ago, weren't you? And you're ticking away. Some nice steady greens.
Game week 10, I was ranked 4.5 million. Game week 10, and I've now got five greens on the bounce.
There we go.
So we'll see where that takes. Fingers crossed it will continue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good to see. Greens all round on the FPL Affairs pod.
Yeah.
Go team.
So, speaking more generally about game week 15, you mentioned there were sort of 3 things in particular that you want to take from it, that you want to talk from it.
I think I've got my 3, but just quickly to add a 4th, I think Man United are a mess. And I say this most weeks. There's still rotation there. Unless it's Fernandes, just don't bother. I don't think they're going to keep many clean sheets. And I don't think that they're consistent. They've got good enough fixtures or consistent enough starting 11s to warrant moves for their players, including Fernandes. But if you were to go anywhere, go with him. My other probably 3 talking points is, one is I think we need to consider Fulham as a much better team than we have done in previous seasons. And that's not just based on a good result against Arsenal, but that's based on some good FPL assets in there. For example, in defence, I think Robinson's up there for me in some really, really good options. Their fixtures aren't great in the immediate short term, but looking at them over the next sort of 5 to 10, I think there'd be good assets in there. Obviously, Smith Rowe's a good budget option, as is Iwobi. and they both sort of not consistently tick along, but they do grab points here and there for their price. And obviously Jimenez has made that number 9 spot his own, and obviously Muniz played midweek, but then he comes straight back in and gets a goal. So I think he's one to certainly keep an eye on. For those that went him, what do you reckon? Like game week 10, game week 11, I think they got quite unlucky. But I do think he's a good striker and he gets plenty of chances. And that's the same goes for Bournemouth. I think they just score goals. But obviously, Evanilson, Clivert, and Semenyo unfortunately weren't involved this week on the goals. Is it Unal or something? Did I see, or Altaro or somebody random? I can't remember who it was. Yeah. Well, I just think put a bit of respect on Fulham's name and a bit of respect on Bournemouth's name. I think they're two good sides. I think in previous years you've had like a Brentford who are doing okay this season, but not particularly well defensively, and Brighton over the years as well. But I think Fulham and Bournemouth should probably be put in that bracket now. A couple of seasons ago, you were looking at Fulham and thinking, we'll target that fixture. Same with Bournemouth, but I think you might need to switch it. And then, like on the fixture ticker, it's like 2 at home to Bournemouth or whatever, when it shouldn't be really. They're a good enough team. And what was my other talking point? Wolves. We've all been on quite heavy on Wolves based on their long good fixture run. And they've got Ipswich, I believe, this weekend. Aït-Nouri's managed to dodge that 5th yellow card for a while now, which I'm thankful for because I brought him in a while ago. And we've all been sort of waiting every week, aren't we, with bated breath, especially you, because when I brought him in, he was on 3. But when you brought him in, he had just got his 4th, and you took a bit of a risk, didn't you? And you brought him in for a hit and everything like that. So, and then obviously Strand Larsen and Cunha. Now Cunha's not gone off the boil, but he's had a couple of blanks, and Strand Larsen, to be fair, has been extremely inconsistent with returns. And so I would just sort of earmark. Obviously, it's game week 16 as Ipswich, but I would earmark next week to sort of move off Wolves' assets because, long story short, is they're not a very good team. Full stop. Gary O'Neill's obviously really struggling. I think they're good from an attacking sense, but even there they seem to be struggling over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, Cunha was doing.
I think they've got Leicester next week.
That's right. Sorry, that's right. I apologise. They got 2 more games, and then I think their fixture run falls off the edge of a cliff. But I just started to start thinking about what you're going to do with a Strand Larsen or a Cunha or an Aït-Nouri, and sort of, you know what I mean, and see what teams you can target around that are a budget option, like a Raul Jimenez, for example, who does have some nice fixtures coming up. Or get on the back of that Brighton and Bournemouth good fixtures with an Evanilson or a João Pedro, or maybe an Aït-Nouri to a obviously, well, we're about to talk about a load of options for a Aït-Nouri transfer, so I won't say any more. But those would probably be my three points.
It's my summary that you say I can summarise your waffle more applicable is avoid Man United like the plague.
Yeah.
Monitor Wolves and look to come off them game week 18.
Yeah, before game week 18, after game week 17. Yeah.
Add some Bournemouth and Fulham players to watch lists and to give them a bit more respect because of how they're doing this season.
Yeah, just like fixture targeting, really. Like, obviously, because Salah's got Fulham this weekend, doesn't he? And, like, that draw against Arsenal has just made me question, most likely, 99% likely to captain Salah this week. But Fulham aren't a bad team. They're a good side. They're well structured. Like obviously Liverpool are doing it to everybody. So I'm not suggesting that they're going to go there and get a result, but they could. Obviously, I think Fulham versus Newcastle. I think that would be a tight game, and obviously Newcastle managed to keep Liverpool to a point. Obviously, it was quite a high scoring game, but they still drew with them. So yeah, I would be just as surprised of Fulham taking points off Liverpool as I would be if Liverpool beat Fulham, if that makes any sense. Like I give Fulham a chance this weekend. So that in my mind is just making me question whether Salah's the right captaincy. But most likely he will be.
I'll briefly think of my main takes from game week 15. One, Brentford's home record being the best in the league by a considerable amount, which so never, despite the fixture difficulty, if they're playing at home, definitely take into account their attacking options. So even going beyond Wissa and Burmo to Sharda.
He's hit some real form. Some real form.
They've got Thiago's just come, I think his name is, that's just come back from injury.
Yeah, that Damsgaard's not too bad, but again, he's a bit of a midfield option. Do you know what I mean? He tends not to get too many, but he does pop up every now and then. But yeah, I agree. Definitely not from a defensive point of view. As a Flecken owner, I think he's kept one clean sheet all season. But attacking wise, yeah.
Yeah, I did get slightly burned from selling Collins this week after he scored against Newcastle, but then
it was Flecken's assist. Flecken assisted him.
I
haven't the ball over the top.
I haven't dwelled over it too badly because had I kept him and rolled the transfer, I would have started with Hall, so I would have had Aït-Nouri, Hall, and no, actually, it wasn't Hall. I was going to play.
I was going to say Gabriel.
I was going to play Fass at home to West Ham. So Collins was going to be lost on my bench, so he wouldn't have even played.
That would have been even more agonising.
Yeah. So anyway, we've gone through, but what did I say? Yeah. So Brentford's attacking record at home. Secondly, was just it really pointed out this weekend about the importance of penalty takers, because Saka got 18 points the other week, in which, yes, he got like three assists.
He also sorry to interrupt. He also gave a penalty away to Odegaard in that game as well, so that could have even been even bigger.
That would have broken the 20-point mark. And then this week I watched most of the Spurs-Chelsea game, and Palmer was involved but wasn't really so much on the attacking foot. But then he gets 2 penalties, 1 assist which actually was arguably a deflected shot, and he walks away with 18 points because getting 2 goals, he's therefore going to get, likely as a midfielder with 2 goals, is going to get the 3 bonus. So it's just being a bit more mindful about the penalty takers. But that second one, that Panenka one, the second penalty, that was a joke.
That was tasty, wasn't it? To be fair, because I obviously, being a Saints fan, we had Fraser Forster, and he's, as far as I'm concerned, he's rubbish. But he gave him the eyes in the first penalty and went the opposite way, and then you see him in his run up give him the eyes again, and he went the opposite way again to his eyes, and to just go and Panenka it down the middle, and Fraser Forster, it was so Panenka that you almost gave him half a chance to get back up and make the save after he'd already dived, but it was so cool and calm that you just watched it go by him. Yeah, unbelievable minerals in that game to go and do that. Kid's
Yeah,
unreal, absolutely unreal.
taken 12 penalties in his career, scored 12 penalties.
Yeah, that's a proper.
So,
He's a proper player, proper player,
mm.
proper mentality there.
But with moving on from that positivity onto game week 16, and from looking around both teams that have been posted in our Facebook group as well as content creators, the main thing really, which the talking point is people having defensive problems. So
Yeah,
it's really defensive dilemmas which we're going to focus on for the rest of this week's first episode.
yeah.
What's the situation with your defence for?
Well, that's a pretty appropriate slide because my transfer move going into game week 15 was Mikalenko to Trent. Didn't make it early. Thought about it, but didn't. As soon as a bit of speculation came out on the Friday about the storm and the potential of the game being called off, I thought, no, leave it. I know people that did go early, and obviously
I was,
you were thinking about going Joe Gomez, weren't you, early?
yeah,
So I know people that were burnt by going early, so I'm glad I didn't. And obviously, I own Gabrielle, who not only has missed the last few games, I think he's missed a clean sheet, and also a. It's almost like Saliba's playing that Gabrielle role almost within their set pieces, and is almost not wanting to sound bitter, but I am. But it's almost like he's stealing all of Gabrielle's points. Like it's annoying. It's
yeah,
annoying to own their main set piece threat whilst he's injured, and then watching them continue to score from set pieces. Like that's just annoying.
it's like
But
it's like those people that went with Saliba at the start of the season and have stuck with Saliba rather
mm,
than switching to Gabriel or choosing Gabriel. It's kind of like they're just desserts, really.
yeah,
It's
because it
like
must have
their
been tough
reward
for
for
them.
sticking with him.
Yeah, but then that's why everybody goes for Gabriel because he's got a set piece threat. So yeah, but at the end of the day, fair play to Saliba owners for showing some patience. But he's frustrating. Hopefully, he'll be back this week. But it is if we go on to the next slide, I think the main reason is a lot of people have been so focused on getting three premiums in their midfield of a Saka and a Salah and a Palmer, and some have
Mm.
tried to do that whilst keeping hold of Haaland. And obviously Rodgers is a good budget option, and João Pedro is a good budget option. Chris Wood, Raul Jimenez, like there's Johan Visser
Mm.
even. There's been some nice budget options up front, so people can spend on a Van Dijk and a Gabriel or a Saliba or maybe even a Trent, and more budget options. But a lot of people have now got a load of budget defenders that aren't performing very well that do now have difficult fixtures.
And I think from what some people certainly have, which looking at popular defensive dilemmas, have got one, the injury concern of Gabriel, the red card that Rico Lewis of Man City received. So some
Yeah,
people have got like question marks over Gabriel. They've got Lewis out. There's
Aït-Nouri on 4 yellows,
eight,
potential
eight,
problem.
yeah, and
Like I mean,
there were one or two
yeah.
other question marks.
Well, Wout Fass has now lost his place.
Yeah,
So he's quite a popular option. Nottingham Forest have just come into a tough fixture, and a lot of people had Forest defenders. They're now coming into tough fixtures. So yeah, I agree. I think there are a lot of budget options that were good for a period of time. I think it's come to an end
and
for
some of the
certain
popular,
budget defenders. And there's just
yeah,
not a lot of clean sheets in the Premier League this year. I can't remember a season with so little clean sheets.
mm,
Because I mean, there's just so hard to find. Obviously,
mm,
Liverpool have been keeping a few, Forest have kept a few, and Arsenal been okay. But the majority of the league have just and also with the bonus point change to defenders, where there's so much more onus on them keeping a clean sheet, it almost makes it even. You're sort of like questioning whether there's any point in spending much money on defenders, because if they're not going to get bonus points, they're not going to get clean sheets, and they're going to struggle for. If you're going to pick I don't know, who was I thinking of the other day, like a Colwill. I know he's not a premium defender, but they're not going to get any clean sheets really, or they're certainly struggling to. They may get a few coming over. He's not a very attacking player. But he's obviously priced quite highly. But he's priced quite accordingly. But there are players within the game that are priced quite high. They aren't really getting that many attacking returns. I was Robertson. I was thinking of the other day because I don't think he's been particularly attacking this season. But yeah, we'll move on to who we think are good options.
Yeah. So our acquaintance Barry Stokes at the All in Football FPL show podcast has done up some delightful images for us, where basically comparing popular defenders in different price brackets. So we'll start at those top four really that are under 4.5, which we've got on there. Matty Cash of Aston Villa is at 4.4, I think, at the moment. Is it Hoyson
or something like that? Yeah,
at Bournemouth,
the 9-year-old.
Yeah, who scored at the weekend. Who's I think 4.3 million. And we've got Tariq Lamptey of Brighton, and Lewis Hall is still squeezing on there at 4.4 million.
I think it's what you want from these players, and what you're expecting from these players. If you're going to have most of us are on a back three, not a back four. So these are the sort of players that you want to bring on your bench to come on for an injured Gabriel, for example. I've got a Mikalenko, who I played last week, who I think he got me 11. So there is value in these budget defenders. But you're basically just looking for consistency of starts, I think, really. Because now Wout Faes has lost his place and he's just auto-subbed into my team for 1 point because he got 20 minutes off the bench the other day. I'm a bit annoyed because you want that nailed-on budget option to at least get you 2 points. But Lewis Hall has got a couple of nice fixtures there with Leicester and Ipswich. So you'd want him out of those four, in my opinion, because he's nailed playing for a good team and with a couple of good fixtures. And there's no reason why he couldn't get an attacking return in that Villa or United game. He does like to get forward. Hopefully him and Anthony Gordon can link up on that left-hand side and make me happy. But
Game week 19 away to Man United, Lewis Hall's 2 goals for Newcastle have both been against Man United, and his first, possibly both of them, were at Old Trafford as well, or at least his first one was. It was a Carabao Cup.
Well, he won't be going anywhere out of my team after that information. I look forward to watching that. I hope you're right. Do you know what? Tariq Lamptey for me has been one of the most frustrating FPL options for years. It was like 3 or 4 seasons ago. He was brilliant. He was such an attacking right back. I think he was like 4 million or something. He was really cheap as well. But he just lost his place and hasn't been able to get it back off Veltman under previous regimes. Now, Veltman's been injured and he's come in and he's obviously scored at the weekend. But he had started to see a little bit more minutes under Hurtsler. I actually think he's a very good right back. I always have done. But he's just not really got a chance for a good run in the team. However, with Brighton's fixture list, if he does nail down that right back place, I'd make him a very good option. Matty Cash is also a good option for me, but probably not as good as Lewis Hall, based based on their fixtures and also based on their form a little bit. Aston Villa have been struggling quite a bit in the Premier League. Obviously got a clean sheet at the weekend, but that's to be expected these days against Southampton. But he's a little bit of a rotation risk. Konza can play out there. They've got centre back options in Mings and Diego Carlos and Pau Torres, and there's quite a few defensive options there. Same with Luca Dean, although he seems to be pretty nailed, Luca Dean, and that Matson's yet to really sort of stake his claim. But Matty Cash was somebody that I was looking at 2 or 3 weeks ago, wasn't I, if you remember? And yeah, I quite like him as an option. He's another one that's been quite a consistently good, quite a good right back within the league. As you can see by his stats there, he's got a goal this season already. But I would probably leave him based on rotation. And this Hodgson is a lovely budget option with some nice fixtures coming up. But he's like 12 years old, has just started the last few games. Obviously, he scored from a set piece, but before that was colouring in crayon. So I'm not entirely sure whether he's going to keep his place, but he might do. I mean, if you're good enough, you're old enough. Do you know what I mean? Like Tyler Diblin at Southampton is young. We've seen plenty of young players come in. I just think he looks so young in his face, and he just looks really young to me. He looks like a 12-year-old, but he's obviously a very good centre back. And I think if he were to stay in that side, obviously you heard in the last section, I think Bournemouth are a good side. So yeah, I think I'm making a good consideration.
Yeah, I think mainly for him, I think he came in, I can't remember who for, but the defender he came in for is expected to be out for a few games, so you've kind of at least got a few games for him.
But long term, you want Lewis Hall out of that list, really, don't you? I think.
He's got, out of that list, he's got the most clean sheets, most goals conceded as well, though, to be fair.
That's what I mean, but that Tarek Lamptey's obviously got a goal and 2 assists. I genuinely feel like if he was nailed, I think he'd be in a lot of teams, Tarek Lamptey, especially at that price. I think he'd be in a lot of teams if he can consistently make right back his. He'd certainly go into mine.
But it's worth, because we'll move on to the next section, because these players are sort of your 4th/5th spot, defender spot, I'd say.
Yeah.
With some cheaper ones.
Yeah, with some bench fodder.
Aren't appearing 2 options. So next price bracket, we've got the 4.5 to 5.5, which we've got another, because of how impressed we are with Bournemouth at the moment. We've got Kirkes on there because he's now 4.5.
He was also quite popular, wasn't he?
Yeah, and recommended by content creators. Kukurea, provided he wears the right pair of boots.
Solanke owners are so lucky this week. Oh, that wound me up. Carry on. It's a good finish, though, to be fair.
Munoz of Crystal Palace and Diego Dallo of Man United.
Well, I think, again, Dallo's an avoid for me. It's just Man United are a basket case at the moment. Just pure, not from an FPL point of view, I mean. Obviously, like a football club, they're obviously the biggest, if not like close to the biggest club in the world, don't get me wrong. But I just don't see them keeping clean sheets, and I just don't see any real draw to them at the moment. Obviously, Bournemouth, that's what I mean. Bournemouth's a green fixture, but Bournemouth could go and win that game. Wolves is a green fixture, and Newcastle at home is probably a grey fixture, so that's right. But City away, I would just not bother. The Munoz is a good option. He's a good player, but those fixtures for me just don't scream transfer in. Like his stats over the last 4 or 5 games have been probably, I think they've been actually the best out of all the defenders from an attacking sense. But Brighton away, Arsenal at home, Bournemouth away are probably just not, especially from a defensive standpoint, because Brighton can score, Arsenal can score, and Bournemouth can score. So again, we're talking about bonus points and stuff like that. So you're relying on him going forward. So maybe game week 19 when they play Southampton, bring him in, but I would probably leave him for three games, I reckon. Cucurella for me is an option for me. At times, playing for Chelsea ends up playing centre forward when they get forward. He plays that inverted left back role, especially when Sancho's on the pitch and hugs the touchline. And Caicedo can drop in or what have you. But yeah, I like Cucurella a lot, and those are some nice fixtures for me. Some nice fixtures in there. Ipswich and Everton specifically, obviously both away, but I think Chelsea this season are very, very good going forward. Very good. Like, I went to see them at Southampton, and even, I know Southampton are no great shakes, but they just look frightening every time they come forward, and they did at times in that Tottenham game. They just seem to they remind me a bit like Liverpool. They just, when they come at you, they just come at you, and they're frightening, and they could score bucket loads. So I would definitely consider him. And Kirkes for me was a bit of a knee jerk for everybody bringing him in after a couple of nice returns. But he is a very good option, and they do have some nice fixtures coming up. But again, defensively, if you're looking for clean sheets, I'm not entirely sure you're going to get it in a Bournemouth defender, especially within that price bracket. I think there are better options like a Cucurella. But yeah, I make Cucurella the best in there. And
I think the Munoz may be a bit of a, because attacking returns of late have been really good and really promising. But again, those three fixtures do not scream out, buy me, buy me, buy me.
No.
He'd be one to keep an eye out and watch.
Yeah, definitely.
Watch list.
Palace's form needs to pick up a little bit. If they were to start to sort of win games and put some consistency of performances together, then I would definitely consider him.
And I think very briefly, going back to Dalot, yes, he's got the most clean sheets on there, but I think pretty much all of those were before Amorim came in.
Yeah. And they're not playing that style of football anymore, that's for sure.
No.
Not from what I've seen.
Do we take a peek on those premiums if people decide to get off Gabriel or are looking at, or have got spare funds from selling Haaland?
I think most defences will have one of each of these three slides, if that makes sense. I think everybody will have an under 4.5. Everybody will have probably two 4.5 to 5.5s. I actually think now more people have over 5.5 defenders more than they have at any time in the season. So, I mean, Saliba speaks for himself, doesn't he, looking at that? 2 goals, clean sheets, great fixtures. Obviously, he's got the highest XG. They're playing in a good team that are playing well, very much involved in set pieces in a team that are very good at set pieces. So definitely he sort of speaks for himself. Trent came off the bench midweek to get 2 assists in one game, which, that's right, isn't it? He did get 2. Pretty sure he got 2. So obviously with 3 assists this season, it was only 1 up until that point. But his fixtures now look very good, in my opinion, over the next, not just the next 4, but probably the next 7 to like 10. I think he's a real option. Conor Bradley's out injured. I know they can move Joe Gomez there, but I think after the sort of calamity, Cons are there, think after the calamity at Newcastle, I'm not entirely sure Arne Slot's going to rush out to do that again. So I think he's obviously the most expensive on this list, but I'd put good stock in there. If you look at his expected goals conceded as well, that he's the lowest there, the Liverpool defence, and his XG and his expected goal involvement and his expected assists are the highest on this list. So statistically, he's probably the best option, hence his price. Vardiol for me, I had Vardiol for all three of his goals. But for me, Man City, I would probably put them in the same bracket as Man United at the moment. You're just not sure what you're going to get from them. They seem to have totally lost the ability to defend and win games. And I was one of those people that clung on to Haaland for dear life, hoping that he would turn his form around and City would turn his form around. I'm also a bit of a closet Man City fan because I just like the way they play football when they play good football. But yeah, again, he's a bit of a mixed bag. I'm not entirely sure. If I had Vardiol, I'd keep him. But I wouldn't buy him at the moment. I don't, you know what I mean? Because he can get, I mean, his expected goal involvement's second highest on that list. He's obviously scored 3 goals, which is the highest on that list. Like he is very, very good defensive option. But again, for clean sheets, he's sort of joint last on that list. So unless he scores, you're not necessarily going to be getting many points. However, he's also nearly just above Pedro Porro for expected points over the next 4 games. So I think if you look at Pedro Porro now with 2 goals and 2 assists, I like his fixtures and I like the way he plays as well. Actually, in that Tottenham team, I think he does get forward. But again, clean sheets wise, Tottenham are just they're just not a team that I would target their defence in. They just don't seem to keep clean sheets. I know they've obviously kept 3 this season, but they just don't look like a very good defensive team. And with Romero coming back from injury or potentially injured again, and Van de Ven coming back from injury but potentially injured again, and a bit of a makeshift back 4, and a couple of calamitous defensive midfielders in front of them after the 2 penalties at Chelsea this weekend. Again, you're looking at him for attacking points as opposed to defensive ones in a team that are just unlikely to keep clean sheets. However, for me, those are some nice fixtures in there. Well, they've got 2 nice fixtures in there with Southampton and Wolves. Forest away is not a green fixture, in my opinion.
No.
And Liverpool at home is obviously a pretty red fixture, in my opinion. So, yeah, looking at that, for me personally, Trent is the best option. He's obviously got the highest expected points over the next 4. He's got the most clean sheets. He's got the least amount of goals conceded by quite a considerable margin. There's 6 goals. He's got the lowest expected goals conceded. What's funny is he's actually got the least amount of attacking returns. Sort of like out of those 3 FPL points wise, I believe. If 3 assists, 2 goals add up to pretty similar anyway. But he actually, in my opinion, also has the most potential to get attacking returns, and the stats prove it as well, with him having the highest expected assists and XGI, which is why he's an option for me. That was going to be my move next week. I will get onto it at the end of this, but it is potentially my move this week. And Saliba's great, but if you've got Gabriel, I would just wait for Gabriel to come back.
We'll go through that when we discuss our teams in the second video for this week. But briefly, to wrap this up, going through the brackets, again, your top shout for the under 4.5s, either there or if there's a curveball you want to add?
For me, probably Lewis Hall. He's obviously expected the second highest amount of points there at 11.1, but he's far more nailed, in my opinion, than Hodgson. But if
Yeah,
Tariq Lamptey does nail that
yeah,
right back role, I would definitely have him on a watch list. Definitely.
yeah. So for me, from those four, I've got Lewis Hall, and I'm not looking at Hoyson because I mean, when we go through our teams in the next episode, I do have both you and I have the Wout fast conundrum, but
Mm,
I wouldn't be looking at Hoyson to replace him
no.
because I have his teammate Kirkes, and I'm not going double Bournemouth defence. But that one, we're both on a avoid Man U, put Munoz on watch list for game week 19. I've
Yeah.
got Kirkes, and I think both of us really, if we look at Chelsea defender, the preferable would be Cucurella.
Yeah, because again, Gusto, I like Gusto, and obviously Gusto was 4 million last year, I think, and I had him early
Mm,
on, and he was again one of the reasons for a good finish last season. But I like his. If you look at the stats wise,
mm,
Cucurella's there, goals conceded 13, which is the least out of everybody. Now they have got a goalkeeper behind him who's a bit of a mixed bag.
mm.
And obviously Kirkes has got the highest expected points. But yeah, for me, Cucurella, I would be surprised if Kirkes outscored Cucurella over those four fixtures.
Yeah, yeah. And then the premium, you're very much on the Trent
Oh,
train.
Trent all day, Trent all day.
Yeah,
Statistically, look at it. He's going to concede the least amount of goals, get the highest amount of points, and he's got the statistics to make him the most attacking.
mm,
Versus, do you know what I mean? Versus Saliba and versus Porro
yeah,
and versus Vardy. The numbers are just better, and he's playing for a better team that are in
mm,
form, that have now had a midweek rest as well. Oh, sorry, a weekend's rest as well. Don't forget they are playing midweek, but so are the other three players in this.
mm,
So yeah, I make him my favourite by quite some margin.
yeah. So, which again, the main problem, sticking point with Trent is the funds really.
Mm.
But yeah, those are pennies for thoughts for people. Are there any other standouts from either the mid bracket that we didn't cover or this top bracket?
I think Van Dijk and Timber in this one are shouts. Obviously,
Yeah,
cheaper ways into a better defence, into
mm,
a good defence, if that makes sense. Sorry.
yeah,
If you wanted to go Timber instead of Saliba or Gabriel, that's perfectly fine.
mm,
Timber's got good data, and so does Van Dijk. He he's got some real set piece threat. Van Dijk. He's yet to really sort of show it, but he gets his
mm,
head to a lot, and I could see him scoring quite a few goals from set pieces if he were to just. He's always just that. It's always that just skim over the bar or that little bit wide.
yeah,
He just seems to, but he seems to win everything. But yeah,
yeah,
I think Van Dijk and Timber in this bracket. Other brackets, I think there's hundreds of options. We were going to talk about Emerson at West Ham until he got suspended, but and obviously Wan-Bissaka has been highly transferred in for
mm,
West Ham. But West Ham, that's just not a defence I want a defender from.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
surprised at that. So yeah, but no, I think we've covered the most.
yeah. If those of you watching, if you've got any that Jack and I haven't mentioned, then please let us know. Add to the comment to the video or um, comment on any of our finding us, whether that be on X, FPL Affairs, the Facebook group, commenting on our YouTube channel, response to this video or any of the others, or the Spotify link as well. Yeah, our next video, which we will be recording imminently, is going to focus on two main things, really. One, the recently announced mystery chip, spoiler alert,
Spoiler alert.
as well as what we plan to do for Game Week 16 ourselves.
What
So,
crazy
yeah.
ideas we have.
Oh yes, the crazy ones. Will my green? What will I decide to keep my green arrow run going? We shall wait and see. But yeah,
Thanks for watching.
yeah, and get in touch. And I hope you enjoyed the video.
Like and subscribe and tell your friends if you found it useful. If you didn't and you just want to tell them that Rob Beckett knows a lot about fantasy football, which was a funny comment somebody said a few episodes ago, which I appreciate. Do send them our way.
Yeah, will do. Right, take care of everybody. And all that's left to say is keep your FPL affairs under wraps until after the deadline. Goodbye.